Round 3 of the URC done, and it's becoming clearer what state each of the teams are in. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Round 3, another good set of fixtures and some entertaining games as well. I've got a couple of reviews on the channel, like longer reviews. The Munster Edinburgh game and the Leinster Sharks game is up there, so if you want more in-depth stuff on those, certainly go and check those out. In this one, as usual, we're going to spend not too long, at least for me, on each of the games, and then we'll have a look at the where the table sits now. So we start with the first game of the weekend is Munster versus Edinburgh. Again, full review on the channel of this one if you want to check it out. So it was Munster 20, Edinburgh 19, and I did not know how Edinburgh did not win this game. So Munster start off, they score a try against the run of play. Andrew Smith in for them, but then Edinburgh hit back not too long after. Ewan Ashman goes over, and then they continue to apply pressure, and Ben Velicott gets over as well. Quick thinking from him to get the ball down from close range. Then Edinburgh get the first of 4 yellow cards, so Glenn Young goes to the bin, and a couple of minutes later, Darcy Ray goes to the bin as well for, that was a high tackle, I'm pretty sure, on that one. And during that double yellow card period, Michael Milne gets the first of his 2 tries for Munster. And at that stage then, I think, Munster back in the game, but I think the difference is a conversion. I think, Ben Healy converted one of the 2 tries that Edinburgh got. So Munster 2 points back at that point. Then we go into the break, and when we come out after the break, Munster actually started a bit better, but it's actually Edinburgh who got over for the first try of the half. Darcy Graham, pinpoint kick over to him, and he's in for Edinburgh's third. And the way Edinburgh were playing, like they were, completely dominating set piece, looked more dangerous with ball in hand, aggressive in defence, go forward from their forwards, especially a young guy named McConnell, who I thought was very good as well in the back row, and looked for all the world that they were going to go on and win the game. But another yellow card, Freddie Douglas to the bin. During that period, Michael Milne in for his second, so brings Munster back into the game. And then 10 minutes to go, Magnus Bradbury, he goes to the bin. And during that period, Finian Wycherley goes over for Munster, and Munster not great kicking from the tee, but the 4 tries and the bonus point was enough, just about to pip Edinburgh. But I still think Edinburgh should have won the game. But you look at like Edinburgh's 2 games so far this year. They've lost them late on, and they've between the 2 games, they've lost them by a total of 4 points, not 4 points each, a total of 4 points. So 1 point here and 3 points against Zebre. And I think that's a part of the reason why Edinburgh, you look at their team, you think there's lots of talent in that team, in the squad, and they never seem to deliver. They always seem to be like, when it's really needed, they're not turning up. And I think these 2 losses are indicative of that. Like, because now and then, right, you're going to have close games where it's not going to go your way. But if it's every time that it's not going your way, or for the most part, it's going against you, then that's more than just kind of, the rub of the green or like, luck evening itself out over a season or whatever. If your team is losing by 1.3 points, whatever, 6 points, on a regular basis, it shows that the ability is there to be on par with the opposition, but there's something missing to bring you over the top for the win. And normally that's the mental side of things. And it's somewhat similar, I think, to Glasgow. Although Glasgow, when they were having trouble in terms of getting over the line with stuff, it was more at a kind of a higher level, as it were, in terms of like they were up near the top of the league. But you knew until that season, really, they won the URC, that once they got into knockout stages, nobody would be afraid of them because they didn't deliver in the big games. And that was a mental thing for them. I think for Edinburgh, it's something similar for them. They need whatever sports psychologist or something to get them in that mindset that when it's a close game, they can actually, start delivering, because it really is what happens to a lot of teams, right? Where you're in that position, and the last time it happened, you lost the game, and then the time before that you lost the game, the time before that, etc., right? And I think what it is they say winning is a habit, but unfortunately so is losing. And I think when teams are like when you have that mindset, and I think they do, of when it's tight towards the end, they find it hard to close games out like this. And I think that's, you need somebody almost to come from outside and break that like mental barrier for them. And if they did, I think Edinburgh would be, would be, I don't know about winning trophies or whatever, but certainly would probably be a bit more consistent and finishing higher up the league as well. But, we'll have to see with that. And again, it's early on in the season. Who's to say that they're not going to turn it around and come storming back up the league at some point? But for now, it's not a great look for them. But performance wise, they were really good. Munster, by contrast, were absolutely dire, and like it's crazy. Like, not just how well Edinburgh played for the most part, but how poorly Munster played. And Munster still come out with a win, and not just a win, a bonus point win as well. So, and Munster were poor the week before against Cardiff as well. So, I think it's better for a team, obviously, to be winning, even if your performances aren't great, than losing. Because if you're losing and you're actually performing well, it's very hard to put your finger on, well, what do we need to do to win? Whereas if you're winning and the performance isn't great, the coaches would have a big list of, these are all the things we need to improve on and we need to work on, like line out, especially for Munster at the minute. So for Munster, I think, it's a good win, and for Edinburgh, probably going to be scratching their heads for a while. Okay, on to the next game. We won't spend as much time on every single game, I promise. So Scarlets 0, Stormers 34. So this one, pretty straightforward. We got, but we also got 4 yellow cards in this game. So we start off, Stormers open the scoring. Evan Roos with a try that's converted by Feinberg and Gamazulu. Then he lands a penalty as well. Then we have Tane Plum, or before that, sorry, Ben Jackson Dixon goes to the bin. A few minutes later, Tane Plumtree joins him in the bin. So both teams down to 14 for a while. And in that period, just coming up to half time, Stormers back to 15, but Plumtree still in the bin. De Villiers goes over for Stormers' second try, converted again by Feinberg and Gamazulu, and a 70.0 lead for Stormers in the first half. Then you would hope the Scarlets would come out and start kind of chipping away at that and make it a game of it in the second half. Didn't happen though. Instead, last 15 minutes of the game, we have Farnborough and Gamazulu over for, before that, Van Heerden went over with about 20 minutes to go for the third try. And then Feinberg and Gamazulu gets the bonus point try with 15 minutes to go. And then a bit of icing on the cake. And we have Khan goes over with 5 minutes to go for the fifth try for the Stormers. And during the second half as well, Feinberg and Gamazulu also got a rest because he went to the bin for 10 minutes. And just before that final try, Max Page went to the bin for Scarlets as well. But yeah, fairly one-sided. And Stormers had a really good start to the season now too. Like not just in terms of scoring points, but defensively as well. They haven't conceded that many. I think they've only conceded 10 points. And that was against Ospreys last week. And then, yeah, they nilled Leinster and now they've nilled Scarlets as well. So, having that defense plus being able to get over for your tries as well, it really does feel like this season maybe Stormers are getting back to their best. Last year I think they were off the boil a little bit, but it looks like this year they're definitely right back on it. Okay, next then we have Benetton 41, Lions 15. So Lions actually take the lead in this. Chris Smith with a penalty after a couple of minutes, but doesn't take too long for Benetton to hit back. Got Rhino Smith and Lewis Lina going over for tries. And then end of the first quarter, you've got Simone Ferrari in for their third try of the game. Then Lions, get one back through Intela Bakanye, goes over for them with about just over 10 minutes to go to half time. But then Benetton wrap up the try bonus point a few minutes after that. Lewis Lina with his second of the game, second of a hat-trick that he got in this game as well. So healthy lead for Benetton into the break. And then, second half, we have a penalty at the start of the second half for Benetton that stretches their lead. But then scoreboard-wise, we don't really see anything else happening until the last 10 minutes. But we do have Thomas Gallo went to the bin for Benetton. Nothing really happened during that yellow card period. Then 10 minutes to go, then yellow cards were just being given out to everybody. In the last 10 minutes, you had Jonker going to the bin, first of all, for the Lions. And then, at the end of the game, it actually went into about 4 or 5 minutes overtime, but you had Avaka for Benetton going to the bin and Kewan Horn also going to the bin for the Lions during that period. But in that last 10-minute period, Benetton had on 2 more tries, and I said Lina got a hat-trick. He actually got 4 tries in this game. He gets the last 2 tries, one with about 9 minutes to go, and the other then with the clock in the red as well. So fairly comprehensive win for Benetton. 41-15 was the final score. Lions not really having a great start to the season, and it's got to be a bit of a worry for them as well, because last year they started well. Again, I've mentioned before, it was kind of based on home results, but still, if they want to progress in the URC, they're going to have to be able to, pick up points away from home, and it's not really happening for them. They're not getting the wins. They're not really putting in those performances that would lead you to think that a win is coming for them as well. So that's, a bigger issue, I think, than not getting a win. The fact that it doesn't feel like a win is coming on the road for them anytime soon is certainly an issue as well. But yeah, Benetton, after not a great start against Connacht. Now they've had 2 wins on the bounce as well, so they're looking good there. So on to the next game then, and that was Ospreys 24, Zebre 0. So Ospreys, they went down to South Africa, didn't win, but they put in 2 good performances. They if you look at it, they played back to back. The same opposition that Leinster played, except they swapped, right? So they played Bulls first up, and then Stormers, and Leinster played Stormers, then Bulls. But Ospreys, against both of those opponents, put in a better shift than Leinster did. So you knew that there was something there from them, and they produced it in this, beating a Zebre team who, you look at this result and you look at it in the context of Zebre in the URC, and you think, well, yeah, why wouldn't Ospreys beat Zebre? But you look at it in the context of this season, where Zebre have won their first 2 games. It's a decent win for Ospreys, I think. Long gone are the days where teams looked at, it's Zebre, we can rest a few players and probably still come away with a bonus point win fairly handily. Those days are gone. But I think for Zebre, the thing is, it's the performances on the road. They're competitive, in this Stadio Lanfranchi. They look very competitive over there. They can take scalps, but the next step is consistently being competitive on the road. They're not quite there yet. But in this game, Ospreys, first 20 minutes to get a couple of tries. You had Kokna Singha and then Morgan Morse in for them. And into the second half, then not quite, you would have thought, especially 2 tries after 20 minutes, probably were thinking, bonus point is on, but found it harder, I think, to break Zebre down from there. So settled for a penalty from Dan Edwards with about 20 minutes to go, just to make it a bit more secure, because there's nothing worse than kind of getting out to a decent lead, 14-0 lead, less than 20 minutes on the clock, and then the opposition, with, let's say, around that time, 20 minutes to go, get over for a try, and suddenly, your 2-try lead is not looking all that secure, and it just takes one bad bounce of ball, and suddenly, the game could be even, or Zebre are back within, another score of winning the game. So take the penalty there, and then about 5 minutes to go, then James Ratty gets over for the third. But a solid win for Ospreys, 24 points to 0. Okay, on to the next one then. Glasgow Warriors 49, Dragons 0. So, Dragons coming off the back of that draw against the Sharks, and again, I said it last week, from the Dragons, we need to see them backing up, getting a draw at home against the Sharks, or against anyone for the Dragons, really, is a decent result. You can talk about the weather conditions or wherever, but it's the same for both teams, right? But then, they couldn't back it up. And the performance here, was kind of, unfortunately, more what we expect from the Dragons. So from Glasgow's point of view, Kyle Steyn over within 10 minutes, then George Horn gets over as well in the middle of the first half. Then, we're into kind of the second half then, and Dragons probably feeling, I wouldn't say good, but certainly better with the fact that they went about 15 minutes until halftime without conceding anything else. But then into the second half, then Glasgow start well. You got Gregor Brown and then Hiddleston as well, 0 for tries within the first 10 minutes of the half. So they've got their bonus point in the bag at that stage. Then 20 minutes to go, Horn in for his second. Johnny Matthews in for, what used to be his customary try. Like that guy, was it 2 seasons ago? He was top try scorer, I think. And then right at the death, Glasgow get a penalty try as well. So their 7th try of the game. And Rio Dyer goes to the bin with the clock in the red as well. But yeah, a fairly easy win for Glasgow. Good bounce back for them as well from, that defeat against Benetton. But again, yeah, Dragons, I think we need to see a little bit more from them. Next then, Leinster 31, Sharks 5. So full review of this up on the channel as well. And, didn't really see all that much from the Sharks. The one thing we saw from the Sharks was a really good scrum. And like for Leinster though, to get Jamie Osborne over to score, that was like Lowe made a break, a nice little kick in behind, and Osborne picks it up and goes over. Then we have Jimmy O'Brien going over after him, and then Josh van der Fleer kind of shrugs off a tackle and gets over as well. And Leinster looking really good at that stage, but then they're attacking, and Prendergast, no, it wasn't. Why am I saying Prendergast? It was Harry Byrne. I think I was thinking a bit ahead about the whole Harry Byrne versus Prendergast thing, but no, it was Harry Byrne at 10, and he tries giving a wide pass, and Ethan Hooker picks it off. He's in behind and nobody's catching him, and he goes in for the lone Sharks try. And there wasn't really any other periods in the game where you felt like the Sharks were going to get over again. Like as I said, they were dominant in the scrum, especially after the replacements came on in the front row, but they'd nothing else to go with that, and that was a big issue for them. But Leinster then, Max Deegan out in wide channel, got himself over for a try in the second half. Then 10 minutes to go, Gus McCarthy went in as well. Then Leinster's scrum woes ended up with Jack Boyle getting a yellow card after yet another collapse in the scrum, and he went to the bin for the last kind of 5 or 6 minutes of the game. But yeah, like a couple of things out of this game for me, on the Leinster side of things, is the fact that Harry Byrne, if you're a Leinster fan, you know how good this guy is because he's been around the Leinster squad for long enough, and it's always been the case of even though even when Ross was like number 1 in Leinster, people were still saying, well, Harry, the younger brother, is actually better. And we know the talent that he has, but again, it's about, can he keep fit? Can he be consistent? Because he hasn't proved that in all his time at Leinster. So that's the big question for him. And then the question for Leinster and their coaches is, does he start instead of Prendergast? In terms of is he the man in possession, or is the fact that Prendergast is Ireland's number 1 or number 2, whatever way you want to rank it, right? But certainly higher in the pecking order, a lot higher in the pecking order for Ireland than Harry Byrne. Does that mean that he automatically gets a start for Leinster? When it's not just when it's his turn, but when it's a big game, like next week against Munster, does he just automatically start? I think the answer is yes. I don't think the answer should be yes, though. So that's the Leinster thing. Then for the Sharks, I think that in terms of the Sharks, not a great start to the season. And I think that the scrum today was a nice little kind of microcosm of what the Sharks are this year, right? Basically, you set for your scrum, right? You put in massive effort for a very short period of time, and you get your reward, and then and that's it, right? And that's what the Sharks were like the whole game. Not just in the scrum is the problem, right? Like at the breakdown as well, we would see like that, they would kind of only now and again put in this effort to try and blast Leinster off the ball. And if they didn't get the ball, that was it. There wasn't anything else coming from there. And a lot of their play was like that, where like they might carry hard for a few phases and then there was nothing to come after it. So there was a very short period of like intense effort from them, followed by long periods of like almost inactivity in terms of having that intensity, that physicality. And pretty much the same way your scrum is, right? You get in there, you scrum your ass off, you win your penalty, and then you take a break for a while while the ball's been kicked up or wherever you're lining up for a line out or wherever. Basically, that's how they played the whole game. And you're not going to win rugby games playing like that. You have to be able to back up the your good work with more good work. You can't just say we've done well in that bit, that's us done. And it's not just on the forwards, it's on the whole team as well. So definitely the Sharks, there are a lot of things to be fixed, I think, with the Sharks team. And also, the scrum went well, but the line-out wasn't great. From them, they actually, like the last try that Leinster got, to Gus McCarthy won, 5 metres out from their own line out, they throw it over the top of their own line, and Gus McCarthy just says, "Yep, thank you," collects it, and over he goes for a try. So one bit of set piece good, and the other bit bad for them. For Leinster though, that scrum needs to get sorted out definitely. Probably, the thing is that the solution to it is probably going to be players coming back into the second row and them having just more weight behind the front row, and it's almost going to solve itself from there. But for me, if there are struggles like that, it needs to be more of a technical solution. But I'm not sure whether, and that's the thing, right, is if you have a performance like that and then next week you go out, let's say against Munster, they're winning penalties left, right and centre in the scrum, let's say, I'm not saying they will, but then suddenly, that's not an issue anymore. Whereas for me, I think, well, it probably is an issue, but you're probably not going to address it yet. But the other thing I would say is Leinster's maul was really poor for the most part in this game. And I've said it for a long time that, Leinster don't have a great maul. What Leinster have is, in Dan Sheehan, they have one of the best hookers in the world at positioning himself within the maul to make it difficult for the opposition to get to him. And then, picking his time to go off the back, being able to put on footwork and having that strength to get over the line so that he makes, even poor maul attempts from Leinster into tries at times. And I think because of that, there's been an issue with Leinster's maul. The maul attack I don't think is great compared to a lot of other teams, but it hasn't been addressed. So that's certainly something that I think they should look at. But yeah, final score, Leinster 31, Sharks 5. Okay, next then, Ulster 28, Vodacom Bulls 7. So the Bulls are coming into this game, the only team with a perfect record in terms of they got 2 bonus point wins in the first 2 rounds. Ulster coming in, off a first round good win against Dragons, and then a game that was postponed against Edinburgh last week. So we end up then with, it's Ulster who strike first. Stuart McCluskey, who I think is a fantastic centre, and I think he's just a bit unlucky with the depth that Ireland have at centre. That he doesn't get all that many opportunities, especially in big games, and the fact that a lot of the time, let's say if you're looking at Ireland, you might have Bundyaki and Henshaw starting, and then they'll put maybe Ringrose on the bench because he can cover a wing as well, or and then McCluskey won't be in the match day 23. But for me, I think he's a fantastic player. It's just the depth that Ireland have at the minute. He hasn't got maybe as many caps as he would want. But he's a great player to have for Ulster, certainly. And, you wouldn't, I think a lot of other teams in the URC would be happy, to have Stuart McCluskey in there for them. But yeah, he gets over for the first try. Then we have, on 27 minutes, you got Wilco Lowe over for a try for the Bulls. Rob Herring goes to the bin for Ulster at the same time. Pollard adds the conversion, so we're tied up at 7-7, and that's the score at the break. And in the second half then, early on, it's the Bulls' turn to get a yellow card, and Rudolph goes to the bin. And during that period, Ulster really make hay. They have Augustus Herring and Cormac Izuchukwu all going over for tries, so Ulster get the bonus point try, and from there out then there's no more scores in the game. So a really good win, I think, for Ulster. And I think it's about time really that this Ulster team under Richie Murphy really starts to deliver. He's brought in a decent core of young players in there now, and he's also he's got some good experience there. Some players with a lot of caps for Ireland in that squad as well. And it feels like this year you've got to see Ulster kind of getting back to where they were before, up in the kind of the top 4 of the league, or at least like this year being up in kind of the top 6 to 8 for much of the season, rather than kind of scrapping for lower positions and needing like a big run at the end, even to try and have a chance to get into playoffs. So this is a good start to the season for them, but we'll have to see where it goes from there. The Bulls then, I thought they'd give Ulster a better game. They did in the first half, but then that yellow card period kind of knocked the stuffy out of them in the second half, and really no response once they go back to 15 from there either. But they've had a good start to the season. The Bulls have been one of the most consistent teams in the league phase of the URC, and then in knockout stages as well. It's only finals really they've had a problem with, right? But eventually they're gonna do it. I know it. I feel it, that Bulls eventually are gonna lift the trophy, because I think they're too good a team not to. But you see as well, though, one of the problems for the Bulls is they can be fantastic for a couple of games, and then they can produce a performance like this. And unfortunately for them, a lot of the time they're fantastic in the last couple of rounds of the regular season, and then they kind of start dropping off in the knockout stages, and then by the time the final comes, they don't have a performance left in them. But let's see if it's going to be different this year. So final score was Ulster 28, Bulls 7, and then the last game of the weekend then was Cardiff 14, Connacht 8. So it was kind of a weird one, this, because all of the movement on the scoreboard came very early in the game and very late in the game. So 11 minutes, Cal Ford puts over a penalty to put Connacht ahead, and then you have Tom Bone goes over for a try for Cardiff a couple of minutes after that. And then we have to wait more than 60 minutes. Or Sheedy converted as well. So it was 7-3 at that stage to Cardiff. But then we have to wait more than 60 minutes for the next score in the game, which was a second try by Bowen, and Johan Lloyd converted that. So it looked like, coming up kind of towards the final 10 minutes, Connacht still in the game. They're 7-3 down. There's the possibility, if they can get over for a score, they might actually nick the victory in the game. But then it looks like Cardiff, with less than 5 minutes to go, have not only put the game to bed, but denied Connacht a losing bonus points as well. But then, clock in the red, David O'Connor gets over for Connacht for a try, not converted, but it brought them back within bonus point territory. So Connacht get a losing bonus point out of the game as well. So, decent from Cardiff there. They've been good the last couple of seasons. They've certainly been vastly improved on previous seasons than that. But again, it's another one of those teams where you're seeing good performances, good results from them, but it's about being able to produce that more consistently, go on a run of wins, not just, let's say like win-loss kind of thing, peppering, decent results with losses as well. The teams that really are up there at a cutting edge can put a string of 4, 5, whatever, 6, 7 wins on the bounce. Whether this Cardiff team can do that, I think the jury's still out on them on that at the minute. But a decent one here, especially given how well Connacht played in their first game against Benetton. Cardiff 14, Connacht 8. Okay, so those are all the results from the weekend. Now let's have a look at the table. So leading the way now, we had the Bulls South African team at the top last week. Another South African team on the top this week. Stormers there first place with 14 points. And they scored 95 points and only conceded 10. And that's the sign of a team that are in not just good form, but magnificent form. Then Munster, they're in second place, 3 wins from 3 for them as well. Scored 77 points and conceded 60. And it speaks to, the fact that I think Munster are lucky to be in the position that they're in. But, in sport, at times you make your own luck, and they had games where the opposition had chances and they didn't take them. Munster took their chances and took their wins. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in second place. I think they absolutely do deserve to be in second place. I think, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? On one, you look at it one way and think, well, Munster performance haven't been great, so therefore, they're going to get cut out at some point. But then the other side is they haven't been playing well, but they've won 3 games. So if they do find some form, opposition could really be in trouble when they do click. And that's kind of the double-edged sword for that. But at the moment, the wins are coming, so and they've got plenty to work on. So work on those things, and even though they got Leinster next up, they should at least have that confidence to feel like, we can actually turn the tide against Leinster as well. But let's see what happens with that. But being second in the table, pretty good, especially given, they've had poor starts to the season, again, the last couple of seasons. Glasgow then in third place there. So, they got 2 wins and a loss, that 1 loss away to Benetton. And they're kind of in around where you expect Glasgow to be, really. They always seem to be up there in the top kind of, 4 or so positions in the league. So third place feels kind of natural for them. Cardiff then in fourth place with 2 wins and a loss as well. That 1 loss was against Munster, and it probably felt like they'd done enough maybe to win that game, but they didn't. But they're there in 11 points, same as Glasgow. Cardiff, though, started the season well last year and then fell away. Can they keep that going? Ulster then in 5th place with 2 wins out of 2. So they're the only team left now with a 100% record. They got 10 points from 2 games. but obviously they've still got one game because the game against Edinburgh got postponed. But technically, well, they are the only team with 100% record in terms of like bonus points, not just wins, but one of only 3 unbeaten teams in the league as well. So that's got to be a confidence builder for them. Then last week's table toppers, Vodacom Bulls in 6th, also on 10 points, but they now have that loss to Ulster on the card for them as well. And I've actually got a 0 points difference, 99 points scored, 99 points conceded from them. So then 7th place then is Benetton, another team with 2 wins and a loss, 9 points for them on that. And then Zebre, so 2 Italian teams at the moment in the playoff places. You know, wouldn't they love it to be that at the end of the season as well? Zebre 2 wins and 1 loss, but it's been 2 wins at home with, you know, gutsy performances and 1 loss away where they didn't really show any fight at all. And it's no wonder they got a minus 19 points difference because of that. But they're on 9 points as well. Then 9th, you got Connacht. You know, 1 win and 1 loss. So the opening win against Benetton the first round, and then that loss against Cardiff this week sees them in, you know, 6 points down in 9th, and you know, themselves and Edinburgh really are the most inconsistent teams in the league. So it's not surprising to see them with a 1-0-1 at the minute. Then Leinster, defending champions, in 10th place. They finally got a win on the board. So 1 win, 2 losses. They still have to make up their points difference, and they're on 6 points. Next then 11th, Ospreys. So they got that first win of the season against Zebre at the weekend. You know, 2 decent performances down in South Africa. They're on 5 points, but again, it's about, you know, putting in the performances, but you got to get the results. And a team that really applies to is Edinburgh. They're in 12th. Really good performance against Munster, but no win to show for it. So, you know, 0 wins, 0 draws, and 2 losses for them. They got 3 points. 13th then, Hollywood Bet Sharks. Poor start to the season for them. They got that 1 draw against Dragons, but they would have, you know, they, almost anyone, like whether it's players or fans, would have looked at that and thought, okay, well, we should at least win that game. And I don't mean that from an arrogant point of view. I just think you look at the Dragons' performances over the last whatever many seasons, and you would expect a team with the personnel that the Sharks have to win pretty much 99 times out of 100. But apparently it was game number 100 when they drew. But yeah, 2 points for them. 1 draw, and then right behind them is the Dragons because of that draw, also on 2 points. Then bottom of the table we have the Lions, second bottom of the table we have the Lions. 3 losses. They're there by virtue of that losing bonus point that was against Zebre, where they lost 22-20. So that's the only thing kind of keeping them off the bottom, and points difference, obviously. But then propping up the table is Scarlets. Scarlets, another team that have only played twice, but you know, when you're in poor form, you lost 2 games, you can't just automatically assume, well, if we'd won that game that got called off, we would be up in like whatever 13th or something instead of bottom of the table. But yeah, two defeats from 2. The worrying thing is we're not seeing, you know, I thought Dwayne Peel did a really good job, like in the off season between the season before last and last season, in putting real steel into this team. And this season we're not seeing it from them. So definitely going to have to, you know, up their game a bit, up the effort, but also that ability that they had last year to just stick in games, and because of that, give themselves opportunities, late on to potentially win games or just come back and get a losing bonus point or wherever it was. We're not really seeing that from them so far this year. And they're bottom of the table with 0 points. Okay, so that is our look at round 3. Let me know how your team is doing and how that compares to how you thought your team was going to be doing at this stage of the season.